Well, here we are for part 4. We're back. If you've missed part 1 and 2 and 3, please go back. But today, here in part 4, Rae Bonney shares her inspiring transition from the corporate world to becoming a leading voice in mental health advocacy, including her experience as a single parent. Such an honour to have somebody on the show who's received the Order of Australia. That's the equivalent to the OBE in the UK, if you're not too sure what that is, depending on where you are in the world. But if you're here from Australia, you will know exactly what it is. Tomorrow, join us for the final part. It's a final instalment of This Week with Rae, as she reveals her future aspirations and vision for mental health support, not just here in Australia, but for around the world. Make sure you come back for them. Enjoy the rest of your day and this episode with Rae. Oh, and please go and subscribe. Cheers for now. We'll see you then. I'm picturing you at this point like you're you're very confident, outgoing, driven, not giving up, not willing to stop. I can see why you're getting burnt out. You've said you said I think twice in all of that you grew up pretty fast. Before we come back to your children, why did you have to grow up pretty fast? Because I know childhood was pretty tough, and I know school wasn't easy as well. Is that where that came from, being tough and growing up so quickly?
Well, I had to. I was responsible for myself. I didn't have anyone else to take care of me. So
Yeah.
I had to earn money. I had to be sustainable. And, I think I had this internal drive for a better life for myself as well. I think, mediocrity never sat very well for me. So there was this sense that, I wanted to be something. And again, hard work was easy for me.
Yeah.
I remember there were times when I was working with that chief economist that there was once during the May budget, I started work at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I think I finished at 7 o'clock the day after PM.
Oh, wow.
Worked all the way through, because back then you're working on telex machines, fax machines, and you're reporting to the world. Yeah. So hard work was it helped me a lot because it gave me a real sense of purpose. And, I don't know what the alternative to that would have been, but growing up fast, I think I was designed to be grown up, really.
Yeah. You left school not at the typical age here. What's the age that you leave school here in Australia?
Oh, some people never leave school. So, if you finish secondary school, probably that's around 17, 18, 19, and then, university, however that long that goes for. So,
yeah, sure. Yeah, I didn't think of that. What age did you leave school, and what was school like for you?
Well, as I said, I was 15.
Oh, you did say that. Sorry, yeah. And
yeah.
So I remember you saying
I was a bully at school.
That's what I was aligning to, because I remember thinking when you'd said about in our pre-chat around being a bully, why were you a bully to at school towards others? Because I can't imagine you as a bully. It's bizarre.
No, neither can I. Well, I can't even imagine what that felt like. I mean, I do know what it felt like because I was there, but I don't have those feelings now.
Yeah.
But I was in so much pain, emotional and physical pain. But back then, especially, I could not tell anyone what was happening for me at home.
Yeah.
And to carry that every single day, and that terror, and things only got worse as I got older. That anyone that came near me, or it was just painful. And I was a target at school as well for what I know now to be sexual assault as well.
Yeah.
It was and there was one teacher, my legal studies teacher, and I talk about this a lot publicly, but one day he pulled me aside and wanted to have a chat with me about my behaviour, and he asked me if I was taking drugs, because my behaviour was pretty terrible, and I said no, I'm not, but I really wanted him to ask me another question. I felt like I might have been able to trust him and tell him what was happening at home. But he just said, okay, well, if you're not taking drugs, you can go. And then...
What was the question? I feel like I know, but what was the question you were hoping he was going to ask you?
I don't know. But maybe a range of questions that led me to feeling confident enough to tell him.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they would have been. I was too young to really understand what I wanted.
Yeah.
But I just know that was the feeling that, I felt that he cared about me. Um, but I don't know how, I didn't know. I mean, back then we didn't have helplines. We didn't have information on where to get help or support if these things were happening to you. None of that existed. So there was no, now we might be speaking in context of what's available now and imagining that what help looks like. That didn't know what it looks like. All I knew is that I wanted to die because that's what life was.
Yeah.
And at the same time, and I also talk about this a lot. Tim Watson, he was a footballer for Essendon Football Club, and he came to play for Essendon when he was just 15 years old. Came from a place called Dimboola, and I fell in love with him straight away because I was a Bombers fan. And so straight away I started writing to him. And this was one of the lifelines that I had, the support that I created for myself. And he was my primary focus on what care was for me. So he would write back all the time. I've still got all of his letters that he would write back. And, again, like the people in the bookshop, Tim Watson was one of the reasons I'm still alive as well, because there was that sense of purpose and sense that somebody actually cared about me enough to write back. And
yeah, in a way, these guys saved you, didn't they? Tim and the people in the bookshop and the family that you kind of married into, because you said how supportive that family were. Sounds like you've had many people come into your life as, I don't know how to look at it, the angels, maybe, I don't know.
Oh, very lucky. I think I have because I make myself known to people. I think I've got a good read on what's good.
Yeah.
No, what's not good.
Yeah.
So yeah, good was pretty easy, but yeah, no, I'm incredibly grateful, and that's a real foundation piece for me as well when I'm speaking. It's not rocket science that being kind and being caring and not being an asshole saves lives. It just does. I know it because it saved mine. Just that bit of kindness, bit of care, that hand on your back, that push up, that bit of support is everything. And quite often we're either ignoring it or we're exhibiting behaviours that, you're like, I mean, you told your story before, exactly that. That did not have to happen.
It didn't. I
But that
agree.
could have killed you, and it almost did. And we're not doing enough about that.
Yeah, I do doubt my journey sometimes because I've had family members say man up. I've had friends just roll the eyes, or you can feel it. Like I don't feel, yeah, and that's why I'm probably so nervous about doing my public speaking, because I don't feel people are gonna. I get paranoid and go, people don't want to hear this. But actually, no one actually cares about bullying in the workplace. You know what I mean? But then when I do share it, all that disappears because everyone comes up to me and talks about how amazing that, that I'm being vulnerable, I'm being open, I'm sharing it, because what I have realized through talking to strangers is that it's happening everywhere.
Yep.
Absolutely
And you don't know who's in
everywhere.
your audience either.
Say again.
I remember somebody coming up to me years ago, and I talked about the bookshop and Marge, the lady who let me live with her, and she died many, many years ago, but somebody in the audience had known her.
Wow.
And I don't think I was even in Victoria. And you go, wow. And they were able to say, what an amazing woman. I know that because I experienced that in her as well. So it was really,
Brilliant.
really cool.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. With my, you've got such a good relationship with your children. What about you and your mother? Did you have a good relationship? Or was it?
No,
No.
no, absolutely not. No, no.
Why do you think you didn't have a good relationship? I mean, she
I don't
she
need to
obviously
think I
did.
did. I know I didn't. I don't think my mum, no, my mother did not protect me. She knew what was happening to me. And I remember there was one significant time I was quite young and I tried to tell her and she told me it was my fault.
Oh fuck.
So no, I don't, I'm very respectful about, I don't have a relationship with her. So,
She's
and
still
I don't
alive.
need to, but yes, but I just keep respectfully away because it doesn't serve me at all.
No.
In fact, even when you just said that, you just feel this sense of terror.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's
Sorry.
scary even thinking about her.
Yeah. That paints enough picture there, doesn't it? Absolutely. Yeah. My mum protected me growing up. I'm an only child. My dad left before I was born. I didn't grow up with a male figure in my life, so I feel like I'm playing the game, not playing a game, but I'm guessing in every moment when I'm bringing up my children. And I have a good relationship with my dad, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't say it's like the dad-son relationship where we would phone every day or anything like that, but, I know he cares for me. I know he loves me, but, I remember very vividly as an 8-9-year-old boy where I met him in a car park in a remote control car that was given to me. And I remember those moments. And I know my mum's protected me, but also probably protecting herself as well, from the pain of what happened to her. And my mum, I don't think would listen to this. And I'm sorry if she does. It's probably the one episode she would listen to. But, I don't really remember my mum saying sorry. And because she's not been perfect. She gets it wrong, of course. And I do love my mum, but I sent her a video that I made about the podcast being a year old, and I messaged her to say, I was kind of testing it in a way, what's the response going to be? Because no one's really acknowledged what I've tried to change my pain into this purpose with the podcast and the book. And, I left my career. I'm a casual teacher now because I want to pursue this more, and the public speaking and a program that I want to create. And everyone, I always feel from people, when are you going to go back to work? When are you going to go back to that 9 to 5? And I'm not. This is what I want to do now. But I sent a video. I'm going a long wind here, but I sent the video to my mum and my dad, and my mum's response, both were positive, but my mum actually said, I've always been very proud of you and I love you. And I feel like deep down I always know she was proud, but it's like you need to hear it, don't you? I've always wanted her to see it or hear it, and I don't feel like I ever have. And my partner actually said to me, like, how did you feel when she said that to you? And I kept it in, but I wanted to cry and said, and it felt amazing, and I don't know where that came from. I just felt like sharing that in the moment. I don't know why I said it, to be honest. I apologize.
Validation, it's a powerful thing.
Yeah, it is. So where did the journey next for you then? You've had your first child, your partner. Where does life take you there then after having Rose?
Well, that's when I really started getting a handle on what was going on for me in terms of my mental health and the trauma, how trauma had affected me. So that relationship was not good. It was pretty violent, and that was me. He wasn't great, but I was, I didn't know what abandonment issues were back then, and I didn't know what the attributes of abandonment were or how that plays out. But I was very, I was terrified all the time I was going to be left. I couldn't be alone. I couldn't, there was just lots of things about him that were just unreasonable. Like, was just had this unreasonable expectation of what the relationship was. And but at the same time, there's that whole other side of me that is very career driven and very independent too, and also a very good mother.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say,
somehow knew inside myself that I wasn't going to raise my daughter in that environment, so I left.
Yeah.
And then again, very, very young at the time and naive, and so he got counselling because it was all his fault, nothing to do with me.
That's what you said to him, right?
That's what I thought. I actually thought that.
Yeah.
I really thought that. And so then I went back, and then all the behaviour just continued because guess what? I was still part of the equation.
Yeah.
So I left pretty quick. But during that time, we made George, my middle son.
Yeah.
And so, so then after that, I settled with Rose and George just independently and had, worked really hard at with, raising them as, in this really adventurous community kind of style, lots of love, lots of adventures, lots of activity. And by that stage, I'd moved into the world of recruitment. and I chose recruitment because it put me up front with people. Still then I didn't have any educational qualifications for what I wanted to do, which was work with people. But recruitment put me in that space, but also, that side of me that is very out there enabled me to make a pretty good career out of it and work part-time, make quite a bit of money, but also enabled me. At the same time, I did some other jobs that I could take the kids with me. So we picked up rubbish in parks, we cleaned toilets in parks with my cousin who was working for Parks Victoria at the time.
Amazing.
I cleaned houses, but the kids came with me. So now I'm sort of moving into my early 30s.
Yeah.
And I somehow stumbled across a psychiatrist called Andrew Campbell, and he was in the Yellow Pages, which is, the old telephone book that we had in those days.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I found his name, but I rang him up, and I'll never forget just telling him my story. And he said, "Look, I don't practice anymore. I've retired, but you sound really interesting, so I'll see you." So we worked out some cash arrangement that was quite cheap, and I saw him for a few years. But he's another person who, again, was a life changer, lifesaver for me, in that he didn't focus on what happened to me. He actually used my trauma to inform who I was and what opportunities lay ahead for me. So, on my bucket list was I wanted to go to university, I wanted to own a house, and I wanted to work for myself. And those three things just felt so out of, would never achieve any of those things. And he told me I could.
And nobody ever told you before that you could do all of this?
I'd never asked anyone because it was just never anything that I would imagine.
Yeah.
That, being a single parent, working part-time, how could you ever buy a house? How could you ever do any of these things? And he just told me that I could. And I still probably didn't believe it, but he probably did this deliberately, but he just put those things into my unconscious mind, and he planted them there in a way that they took root. So
Visualization, isn't it?
Well, I don't even know if it was that. I mean, we know these things now, having studied and stuff, but they just sat with me, and coupled with that can-do attitude, the attitude that got me the typing job when I couldn't type, that the one that got me the job in yacht racing when I couldn't do that, also started this. So all that work that I did, all that cash work, don't tell the tax man, me and the kids just saved and saved until we bought a house.
Yeah, wow.
And then, a lot of other things were happening at the time, but generally just working really, really hard and, very meaningfully raising the kids and having a beautiful time doing it. Raising Rose and George was just one of the biggest joys of my life. They're the greatest people. Well, teenage years weren't as great, but, irrespective, they're wonderful people. We had, I really grew in ways with them that we got to explore childhood together. Not that I was a child in that, I was the mother, but I got to see what childhood could be, and I created it for them. So it was really cool. And then when Rose got into high school and George was still late in primary school, I thought that's the time I can go to university. So they're sort of old enough that they don't need this, so much attention from me. So still working in recruitment, and I'd saved up money. And so I applied to university to do a grad dip in counselling and human services at La Trobe University. And I'd chosen it because I didn't want to do psychology, because I never wanted to prescribe.
Yeah.
I'd had a lot of therapy that was very prescriptive about what happened to you. This is what you've got. This is what medication you need. I did not like any of it. So this particular course was it was new, and it was kind of a bit off the shelf, and so it really appealed to me in the way that it was Rogerian therapy, which is all about unconditional positive regard, and it's a real person-centered therapy. Anyway, so I applied to La Trobe, and I didn't hear anything back, and I phoned them about my application to see if I got in, and they said, "No, you didn't get in."
Oh.
And I said, "Oh." How so? And they said, oh, and they said, we can't find your application. We just know you haven't got in because the computer says no. And I said, well, there you go, because I'm not really happy with that. So
No.
I'd like to have a meeting with the head of the school who's made this decision to understand what I need to do to get in for next year. So they granted me an interview, and they said, when would you like to come in? I said, I'll be there at 9 o'clock tomorrow. So 9 o'clock tomorrow, I turned up and I had a 2-hour meeting with him. And at the end of the meeting, he said, I want you on my course.
It's you making stuff happen again, isn't it?
Well, it's never no. I mean, it's not no until it's no. But you know, you can't just ask for a yes just because. But I had a lot. I did have a lot of evidence to suggest that I would do very well on that, which I presented to him very succinctly. And yes, so 3 years later, I qualified, and it was a great experience. But also during that time, I was in a relationship, and my house was now full of people. I think I had the 3 of us living here. There were 6 of us living here at the time, and then I found myself pregnant. And after my operation, I was told I could never have any more children. And I'm heading towards 40, and so I'm pregnant, and so I was like, wow, I'm at uni, I'm working, I'm raising kids, knitting this Brady Bunch together, and now I'm having a baby. So, but going back then, I'm still pretty durable, going, yeah, okay, well, that's just what's happening. So decided to renovate, put another story on the house to house all of these people.
Oh my Lord.
About to come in. So I remember Rory came home from hospital in January 2009. There was no roof on the house. It was pretty funny times, but that was when that relationship did break down. And so then I was with the kids and me and Rory, and Rory's dad is an amazing dad, so we share Rory very, very amicably.
On that note then, Rae, sorry, very quickly, how's Rae looking? You painted a picture before with your previous partner, how you were in that relationship. Were you the same person in this new relationship, or had Rae developed, changed? Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.